That'd be dramatic.
Okay, so it's recording.
I'll make you do the drama part now.
That's fine. I'm not usually on that side. Exactly. Dan, I'm Liz, by the way. I know you and Dave have talked. Nice to meet you. I'm over in LA. I assume you are in LA as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Might be neighbors. I'm over in Sherman Oaks.
Ah, we are. I'm in North Hollywood, off Lankershim.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay, well, I'll do it really quick. Hi, I'm Liz. It is August 26th. That's Dave Raven, and we have Dan the Waterman here. We're recording this Zoom because Dave and I are working on a flat Earth television show concept and getting to know the people and the players who are involved with it. Your name has come up. We've obviously seen a lot of, the work you've done that's been on YouTube. We saw the Jubilee video, and we'd love to hear, your story. I think Dave has some more specific questions, but we'd just love to hear, your background and why you're here and what you're looking to do.
Okay. I have a hard time seeing myself. You probably know more about me than I do. And I have a hard time with the word we. We're not a tight community. What I was trying to get to tell you the story is how we did sort of tighten up around science, which was a real pleasure. And that we did form chores and tasks that gave us unity. Otherwise, the flat Earth community is I can only say that I accuse religious people of being one type of people, but there's Christians and there's Catholics and there's all these sects in between. And I forget that when I group them together. Flat Earthers don't really group together. We're really truth people who, if you ask me, found around 2015 at sort of an empty platform that we felt was very sturdy. And it's like, hey, I can stand on this. I can see this. It didn't get hauled off to China and melted down. It's right there. And being where I live and where you live, occasionally we can see Catalina. The Salton Sea was within reach. We drove all the way to Utah. So we've got all this neat terrain to work with that's flat. Otherwise, how are you going to show it? So what we found is that there's definitely mathematically on a ball, there should be a physical horizon that begins immediately and becomes dramatically more and more visible, but there is no physical horizon. It's an optical effect. For instance, if you see a sunset over the water, Liz, that sunset should be happening at 3 and 4 and 5 miles away, mathematically. But of course it doesn't, So it's been very hard to portray in camera. We put out a good shit show, so it's very distracting. Bunch of us are colorful, and I'm from a logic position. I'm a very logical thinker. So I've come to this conclusion where I felt I could stand on this platform and then essentially run around saying, I told you so about everything else, which is really shitty part of it. And it comes across. Most of us our emotions are right on the surface, so it does make for good TV in that respect. And when we met Mark Sargent, we got excited and decided we could do stuff. And for 12, 18 months, maybe, we were magical. Stuff was just happening, falling in our lap. Even stuff like this today, there's been a lull, but I let Flat Earth come to me, and it's been really healthy. I did something, if I could tell you a quick story besides the Mark Sargent story, is there was going to be a meetup, and there was a situation where we wanted to show an icon of the flat Earth. Chris Pontius is in the Netflix movie. Chris Pontius has spent a lot of effort making these models with the sun and the moon. And when you bust it out in front of flat earthers, they just stare at it like it's home. And I ended up having one in my hand. And the whole idea was, wow, you just got to show people, you have to show them, because of course they think the sun goes up and over something, and the simplicity of going around or getting on a boat going east and coming back to where you started. The simplicity of flat Earth blows people away to the point where it can't even be true, even though it is, to me, quite observable. His story is excellent. He won't fly. I don't know if you can, use him without flying him. But Chris's story is, he's a mechanical person that wanted to see how it would work. And he's made some 60 or 70 of these. He gave away a bunch of them. And he turned me into a bit of a show by having his marquee sign and this. And I was like, okay, where can I take this? And I rigged up a little cart, kind of like a warehouse cart. And I put the stuff on it, and I decided I'll go hit the local market. Oh, I'll go hit the Crazy Ralph's in Studio City. You know, the one that's open 24 hours? And I won't even shop there because the place is everyone's there in their pajamas. They're on drugs. It's really a weird place. It's super sexy, but it's a creepy place. Well, I decided I could go there because it was creepy and it was open all night. And I was on my way to go see what it looked like lit up. And I decided I was only 2 exits from Hollywood. Why not go to Hollywood? And I inadvertently had a live audience that was mostly overseas. It was an English crowd. And I found myself bringing Hollywood to the people outside of Hollywood and bringing flat earth to what I considered the media, where everything was happening. They're dressed up like Superman. They're dressed up like this. Then I ended up being dressed up like flat earth. Amongst all this came the lab coat idea. And the idea of glasses, a clipboard, and lab coat is unfucking stoppable. And, the colored pens, and it's just ridiculous what it commands for no good reason. And
so were you wearing this on Hollywood Boulevard?
Yeah, if you look on YouTube, it's like Flat Earth Hollywood Live. And in numbers, we become this peer group that everyone's looking for answers. So 3 or 4 people like this, they come up and they go, who the hell are you guys? And it allowed, I noticed that people don't wear these in the street. So it became to me like the uniform of truth, because people believe it, whether it's, it's really easy to put numbers together. Give you a great example. People say, we used to think people lived to be about 72, and now it's like 78. And people say, oh, people are living longer. No, more people are living to be 2 years old. So the numbers say people are living longer, but the reality is a hell of a lot different. So going back to flat earthers and reality and stuff, this was supposed to be my big campaign, where if you saw 4 guys up in the bleachers, you go, shit, I ain't talking to them. Those are those flat earth nuts. So the idea for me became to embrace the nuts as much as possible. I mean, the nutty thing. And for us, it was, we're going to have fun. We're going to smile, and we're going to take your shit, and I'm going to give it right back. You show me a pilot, and I'm going to jump on his ass, because it's impossible what they say and what they... Anyway, the point is people believe what they believe. Media is a big deal. And I found myself being able to go to Hollywood dressed up with props, and nobody's going to say anything because I fit right in. So I thought that was a good message. We had some internal things, and I never gained an engineer. So I was never had anyone to run the show. And that would have been eventually Saturday Night Live, where we went and did we had a musical guest, and we'd have a news segment, and we do skits, and we do that every week. So that definitely was a goal.
That's brilliant. Hey, Dan, do you mind, can we take one step back? You're obviously a very smart, well-spoken individual. What made you... when... like the lab coat.
Especially with that white coat on.
Yes. Wait, color trends make all the difference.
And just wait, I'll put on the glasses. I'll fuck with you guys. All right, so what should I have covered before I started talking? What do you say?
I'm just curious about what made you decide that the earth was flat. What brought you into this world? Were you a skeptic before? Like what started this?
Absolutely a skeptic. I would say the moon stuff, mostly, that there's nothing factual, with NASA. And that, going back a long time ago.
Hey, Dan, we can't see your face.
I've had issues with media for a long time, a long, long time. And I'd love to embrace it. Being here, it's cool. You can sort of be as Hollywood as you want, you know, and like, you know, so it's kind of, I fell into a bit of flat earth celebrity because I'm convenient. I'm here, right? I'm here. I got props. I get shit. So I'm also a couple years older than a lot of the people in the movement. So they sort of gravitated to me a little bit. And originally, I think it's a solid platform. It's what it's refutable by is things like math, things on paper, but it's the globe isn't something that's taking place. In other words, if you can see through NASA, you're like, wow, where did NASA come from? Who are they? And what did they admit? I have a problem telling people what NASA says, much less what we say. I spend all of day one, first of all, getting laughed at, but second of all, when I do get through, explaining to them what they already believe. Because when I tell them what they learned, they go, that's stupid. And I go, yeah, I know. That's what we're saying. So to me, it's a justice thing. I'm at a war against bullshit because I was bullshit by my parents. I had sociopath parents. So my life inside the home was absolutely bullshit. Now, the psychosis part of it is the dichotomy. Whether I'm at work, I'm a drinking water technician and I do water filtration, I'm idolized there. I'm hated by my friends and family, but I'm invited into people's homes for something that they feel really happy to spend money on. It's their own safety and convenience, you know, to have safe water in the house. And so it was weird to enter another arena, flat earth, and find the haters were the people closest, the flat earthers, not the opposition. The opposition enjoyed opposition. You could go back and forth. But the jealousy, for instance, I'm in Hollywood, I got this, shit like that was has been a real problem. I'm easily, you know, hated. I mean, dozens and dozens of videos and memes, because I have, for instance, props, or I might believe in something. The problem with this is people would say there's a dome, therefore I believe in the dome. And we have a hard time trying to convince people it's not about belief. Belief is religion. And we're measuring stuff, you know, and Wendell through science, you know, the Flat Reality Earth Explorer group, we were able to enter a scientific aspect of it that took me out of all the arguments. The arguments for most people would be, oh, you're just watching that on YouTube. You know, so we got really lucky. We were able to go from watching it to doing it. And it gave us a confidence level that was like, bam, bam. So if we can take it, it's pretty good. If you have numbers, 3 or 4 people, especially in lab coats, you get some of that backup, you get some of the help, because we're always outnumbered, 4-1, 5-1, 6-1. And I think to answer your initial question, I was always a Macintosh person. So I was used to being 1 in 10. And I was used to when they said computers, it didn't mean me. That helped. I can't tell you how much that helped, because I always had to just go, you know. So how I can go on 90% of the computing world is interesting, but for my purposes, yes. And I don't watch the news, so that's helped in the case of COVID and everything else. But our lack of unity has surprisingly added a frustration that's made us nuts. We weren't nuts when we got here 3 and 4 years ago. 4 years ago. We all got here at the same point, too. You're going to find the same moment for all flat earthers. It's 2015 and 16 on the nose.
And what happened in 2015-16 that made everybody?
Mark Sargent came out with Flat Earth Clues. And it's very cohesive and comprehensible without big words or assumptions. Mark Sargent hides the fact that he's slightly religious, so you never hear it from him. And there was I should tell you the history of Flat Earth really quick in that respect. Publicly, there's two camps. There was Matt Powerland, or Matt Boylan, and the other camp was Eric Dubay. And they're both kind of leader types that have followers and minions. And they both spread a lot of hate and disappeared into the world of everyone's a shill, everyone's full of shit. Anyone getting involved is just cashing in. So there's been a lot of accusation and a lot of stuff. And so the two potential forefathers of Flat Earth aren't around. Mark got stuck with the chore because he put his phone number out there. So Mark inherited an interesting thing where he started fielding the calls to the point today where he just trying to give them away, trying to give away the interviews, trying to give away the calls, because he's said all the crap enough. Surprisingly, he doesn't make a lot of claims. So for us, we're lucky that we could do some stuff so we can make some claims. I can tell you I've held a laser and seen my friend holding a laser 35 miles away on a railroad track. Is it meaningful? I don't know. I mean, to go further, does light have mass? Can light bend? Is gravity exist? For me, you'll appreciate this. This is more about energy, light energy, what happens when light hits light, what happens when people hit people. And the people that don't get along, for instance, whatever my shortcomings are, I guess I'm magnetic. So if you like me, you're attracted. If not, it's quite a repulsive situation. So two people that are magnetic have to find some way to line up so they don't get too repulsive or slammed together. One of the people you're interviewing, I have serious issue with that we've been trying to get along. And
who's that?
I'm not telling. And I don't want to give her the credit, but all right, it's Sydney. All right, I saw your face. Sydney is extremely colorful, and if we painted it in a way, she could be the whole mother of some of this West Coast stuff and did some very fascinating things. But she's an incredibly narcissistic sociopath who will undermine everything. She's already trying to reach you on shit that's of her own interest. She's always that way, and she's always a disruptor. I got too close to her, and so she's busy pushing me away because that's what that kind of person does. So I'm nervous about whether or not I want to accept it if you have us both on there as a shit show, because we will supply it. And I'm nervous about that. There's more interesting people other than us West Coasters, so to me, I'd really like to see you maybe take a smaller group and then go do observations throughout history. Like I was saying, those old observations through, Aristophanes and all these experiments, Foucault's the pendulum and all these things that they say supposedly prove this or that, the canal, the Bedford level, all these things that we could go do. I'd love to see you do that with a different group at each thing. You could take a core, but I think you're missing out on so much diversity that way, that there's so many really interesting flat earthers. And what I was telling Wendell is we need the manpower when we go out on that stuff anyway. You need more personnel. So it really wouldn't hurt you guys if you could pick up people on location. You could keep the episodic part of it, with the group, but you'd really add a ton of color, because for us, it's all about meeting and hugging and going, oh, you're a flat earther. It's only later we go, oh, you're another fucking person I got to deal with, And that's the problem for us, is like, even if we get towards a truth movement, we're not experienced in politics or psychology, So how do we run the world? How do we fix that? So it's a real problem. And I hate to just go, oh, love is the answer. But if we're going to break down physics and find out what makes shit really work, including, waves and the brain, love is the answer. I mean, literally, war certainly isn't, So if we could get through people's, jealousies and fears, maybe we can find out a lot more about the human condition. So to me, it's all about that.
Can you go back a little, and I think you're great at characterizing, you said something about diversity and sort of the different camps, again, in the flat earth movement. Tell me about the variety of different types of people. Are there two groups? Are there more than that? And I want to hear about that, the divide and the diversity.
I'm going to have to quote something from Mark Sargent's show last night. They were talking about Rob Skiba. Rob Skiba blamed Mark Sargent for almost becoming a flat earther and began to do skeptical videos from a biblical and scientific perspective. There's very few people that can look at it from both a religious and scientific perspective. Very few people have the tolerance for themselves to put aside this parable or this fact. And everything I was saying before was about exploring the paranormal and the supernatural, and what, has science limited us to the crap that they could do 100 years ago without understanding? And if we're dealing with only an optical issue of whether the shape of the earth, imagine the power of the mind. Imagine what people can really do, between, everything from reincarnation to hypnosis. People are amazing, and we're going to waste. People are going to waste, What was your question? I forgot.
What are the different groups, subgroups within flat earth?
Rob Skiba has a real good chance of attracting a religious audience and not deterring an inquisical or scientific other audience. Most people have their own audience, kind of. It's not really a group, but it would be based on their interest. So we have conspiratards that think everything's a conspiracy, and they've embraced this as something to jump on. Religiotards that think everything was written and it's going to come true, and they hold the book up. So it's weird. One guy's got a tape measure and the other guy's got a book. And they both may have, facts or theories. I try and bridge them, and I try and come in from a logical perspective. And now, again, it puts me at that same 1 out of 10 that I was as a computer person. Now I am as a flat earther. I'm an oddball, because the best thing I was able to do was to introduce a comedic relief, because people were already laughing at us. I needed to laugh at them. So by taking it to the streets with an example and tons of examples, things written down and, buried in plastic, wherever I have, I don't know where any of my props are, but stuff, here they are. Explaining experiments, experiments for experiment number 6, easily replicatable at home. Have you ever fallen down? Have you ever fallen up? And so it makes people ask questions. And when there's real numbers, they accuse us of making it up. And that's a disaster, because we're using real math, but we're accused of making up math. And when you ask, for real numbers, somebody look up something, they won't. If I tell you NASA has a balloon program out of Antarctica, you could look it up right now, but everyone thinks that, ha, 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 ha. So that ha, 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 ha is interesting. To answer your question about groups, 13 million people watch that Jubilee video. Flat earthers think I got paid, so I'm an asshole. And that's enough to make me an asshole. So they're busy questioning how I got that gig so much that they can't accept the gig. And then the poor general population is laughing 13 million strong when we made a pretty good, strong showing. So.
Yeah, you did. And aren't you, isn't part of the goal to promote the, flat earth? And how else are you to do it without opportunities like that?
But we get shit on by the people that didn't make it up themselves, or the people that didn't get invited. I've had a lot of luck because that's me. I'm lucky. I'm here, you know, and so how could you have luck? You must be part of the organization. What they're always saying is this is, and the accusation against Mark Sargent is going to be, this is a slow rollout, what they call a rollout. And that they can't just tell everyone, it has to be leaked. And the surprise here with this COVID thing is a surprise because the big thing is something called Project Bluebeam and the fake aliens. And if we're in a melted spot on the ice, 3 and 4 and 5,000 miles away, there could be other suns and other melted spots in the ice that we used to call aliens, but they're just civilizations elsewhere. We just haven't had enough fuel to get there. So in simplicity. So who are the outer ponders? And are we under there, you know, are we limited by that? And if there's a dome, is that a quarantine? Are we just kept here because we're a young species and bless you, and shitty neighbors, you know, we're shitty neighbors. We're young and we don't get along. I want you to imagine coming here thousands of years ago and it's molten and it's magma and you're like, shit, I'll drop a couple of pyramids and come back, you know, as a marker. And you come back every 20, 30,000 years, let's say, you know, you and I as Adam and Eve, like, what can we do? Eventually, you know, we make people or whatever. But when I grew up, there were Martian movies in the 50s and 60s, and they always said, take me to your leader. Imagine coming here every 10,000 years and asking the question, take me to your leader. And they just, oh, you'd look down and you go, yeah, well, they're still fighting amongst themselves. We better go. So when could you even interact with humans? You know, so for me, the goal is definitely that, is can we discover the human condition? Could we get along? Obviously there's enough resource in a place of abundance. Is everything getting shitted up now and wiped out because, like the flood, it's designed for that? And do we deserve it? Yes, 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 yes. So it's all interesting, but I don't think there's the groups that you're going to find. There's little cliques, and here's what you want to hear. When I'm online, there's online groups. See, what you're seeing on the West Coast with people that physically got together, that's different. There's other groups online. And I found that when I got thrown off of one group online and went to another, that it must be like an English pub. Imagine getting in a fight. First of all, imagine going to another English pub and finding there's the same thing. There's the same journeyman, plumber, there's the same bricklayer, the same guy that's in the corner is always bumming a cigarette. It's the same shit from pub to pub. And imagine going there and arguing that your soccer team is better than theirs because you're 3 miles away. This is what we do in Flat Earth. We're both soccer fans. We're both partying and trying to get through life and have the same releases as well. Yet we argue about what team, which is exactly, which is what you're asking. What teams are there? There is no organized league. To shorten that, there is no league. So we don't, and we're not all well versed at either putting together video or putting together anything that doesn't turn into an argument and a shit show. Prior to the West Coast 2.5 years ago, or maybe around then 3, there was a lot more shit show. People that didn't know their facts, didn't have any numbers. They argued a lot. There's a lot less arguing now because we have good reference. And that's why it's so fun for us to actually get any opportunity to face the opposition. They generally bury themselves with their lack of understanding. And so if we can get that opportunity, I was suggesting before, without opposition, we do look sort of corny. We do look sort of corny hugging each other and high-fiving each other. Without opposition.
Who is the opposition?
Someone arguing the other side. Because their arguments are
like specifically, who are they?
People that, is a great example. I'm at a meetup, we're at a bar afterwards, and some kid, smart kid, comes up to me, wants to set me straight, And he goes, dude, I've been listening to you and listening to all your friends tonight. And he goes, let me tell you something. You ever heard of peer review? And I'm like, yeah, but that's the problem. He goes, no, hang on. He goes, I just got out of college. right? I'm going to go get a job. He goes, for me to be successful, I'm going to listen to those 10 dudes in the coat because that's what sets the standards. So his sincerity and integrity wasn't going to come into play. How to play the game was going to be to go along with the white coat. So this is the same thing that's going to get us, you know, the cop's decision now, like to be a cop or to be a person, you know. So this is kind of critical in terms of who you are and what's in, you know, what's inside.
What does somebody in the establishment have to lose by accepting that what we know?
Go against the grain. Go against the grain. Go against the grain anywhere, and you'll just find you can do it, but there's just no help. There's nowhere to rest. There's nowhere at peace. You're dodging and bobbing and weaving, and almost all of us have lost friends and family members because of what they think we believe. And I'm telling you, it's just not a belief. This is a measurement. This is a mathematical issue, and you can Biblize it all you want. I mean, maybe I'm a shallow flat earther for not addressing the creator, but I feel that my role is to getting past the laughter stage and getting people to notice us. I don't know if you've noticed, we have a guy named Nick, the NASA pimp, and he dresses up in all the NASA stuff. And people walk up and him and I are arguing because he doesn't break character. He pretends to be NASA. And people walk up and, you know, they listen to us and they realize we're not on the same side. So what are we doing? Then they notice this shit back here. And all of a sudden they realize that we're arguing flat earth. And then they can't tell which one of us is on what side, you know, and it makes for a real exciting moment to watch people just trying to absorb what's going on. You guys are really talking about flat earth? You know, I mean, like they can't fucking believe someone's willing to talk about it because it seems like a dinosaur Amish sort of behavior. It seems like something that we should have outgrown in the Columbus days. You know, so how backwards could I be for believing something from then? So it's not until people can look into it, and tell you the truth, it's hard to look into now. We used to be able to just go research flat earth and go like this, you know, go. The shit's all censored now. So it's really harder for us really to just say, go look, because the stuff's not there.
So Dan, just a question. What's the purpose? Why does NASA exist? Why is anyone trying to convince the general population that the earth is not flat, that the earth is a globe? What's the reason behind it? What are they hiding?
It's not the only thing they're hiding. Like I said, if you had power as an individual, or we had power, let's say prayer, the idea of you know, I'm not religious, but let's say the idea of prayer. Let's say we put our heads together. I watched us make magic happen as Flat Earth came to us, and we were able to show definitively what we were doing to the world. That was exciting. It was easy. It was fun. NASA stumbled into their job. You have to remember all the original people got shit canned immediately, right when they pulled, you know, right when they were going up. Like the guy quit, the main guy, I forget his name, but, you know, turned up dead on the railroad tracks, suicide, gunshot, you know, whole family, you know, the usual story. So the real story is pretty transparent with NASA, if you really look. They came from Nazis and they behave like such. The secret that nobody knows is something called the NRO. It's the National Reconnaissance Office. It's been the military version of NASA the entire time. And they've never really exposed it in any way. It's now kind of going to have to be funded publicly. They're going to call it Space Force. That's what Space Force is the National Reconnaissance Office. Basically warfare in space. NASA is so full of shit and so provable that I immediately just have a media issue. So this is a real problem because I want Shelley Lewis to be a reporter. The whole idea is for us to go to red carpet stuff and be reporters, laughed at, of course, but the idea of being laughed at and feared at the same time. Here comes those fucking truthers is a great thing. And 2 or 3 of us in coats with a camera crew are dangerous. That's the fun part. Times have changed in 12 months, 8 months, where we're now domestic terrorists for calling it out. And asking Shelley to go out and be the face of truth is dangerous. So that's weird. That's weird times. So do we use, do I continue to try and use Hollywood? Do we switch to the internet? Is there a we? These are great questions. But of the, let's say 13 million people looking, I figure 1 in 1,000 listened, so maybe I got to 13,000 people that listened. Those are rough odds. In the streets, I had better odds. That was fun. Like I definitely, because it's such a California crowd, so diverse. The great thing about Hollywood is we had a lot of foreigners and tourists. So there were people taking images and stuff and bringing it back somewhere. So I was really excited about building that. And the only thing I could do that you could do really is something consistent every week, and be there. And at one time I said, what if everything got shut down? We'll meet in Hollywood on Saturdays and you'll know where to find each other, So I know that sounds crazy until now, when it would really be, what if they shut down the internet? What if they shut down our phones? Where would we find each other? And
so Dan, again, but why? What's the purpose? Like, what are they hiding? What do they not want people to know? Like, what's the difference? Okay, so the earth is flat. How does that change, day-to-day life? There has to be something, like a reason for it.
You'd have to look at other industries like diamonds or other exploitive industries. At first, there was a curiosity of space, of course, till it was found that there wasn't such a thing as deep space, and anywhere there's nowhere to go as far as survivability. What is the motivation? Is that the question? Besides money?
Well, I mean, maybe money is the number one motivation.
I mean, these shitheads perpetuate war. The military-industrial complex is being allowed to own the media and get away with all of this. There's not one person that wants that, So the idea that the corporations have been given, one day we went to sue a corporation and there was no one to sue. So in order to sue them, the court gave them the rights of an individual so they could be sued, but they don't have the conscience of an individual. So they run around with rights, but they don't have any conscience. And it's unchecked. The idea that there's no real media is unchecked. Look at Daniel, I forget his name, that made the Flat Earth movie. The
one on Netflix?
Yeah, Daniel Walters, is that his name? No, I forget his name. Yeah, the one on Netflix.
The producer of it?
Yeah, he got shit on from both sides. He got shit on from us for making a hit piece, and he got shit on the mainstream for glorifying us. But what we were experiencing, maybe up until you guys, because you guys are putting a lot of effort emotionally into this, what we were always experiencing was we're fun to laugh at. We're pretty fun to laugh at. It's good. It's funny. It's like, look at these people, so it's hard to get into the science part of it when we're such a good spectacle, not to mention leave us alone in the room and we'll fight amongst each other.
I think one of the things, Dave, I don't know if you guys really got into this, but if there's ever been a time in the world where questioning the government is now super mainstream, it's now. And we think a lot of the same, like, this isn't about, for us, this isn't about poking fun at anyone. That's not the intention of this. This is saying, hey, here's a bunch of people who are questioning what we've been taught, and with good reason. Absolutely, with good reason. Everybody's questioning the government now. This is something that whether you are a flat earther or a glober, you can identify with as a human being in this world that we're in right now.
I run around often trying to show people how stupid they are. There's a petition to sign, and people will hold the pen before they read it because they want to be supportive. Here's my California petition to conserve gravity.
That's amazing.
Because when you petition to abolish NASA, as you said, but if you don't get people to focus even on the prop long, just to hold them up for a moment. And in answer to your question, this was sort of my answer, is I'd love to embrace this and join the truth movement. Flat earthers have been content as flat earthers, and we're missing out on a lot of people that care. And unfortunately, there isn't exactly a political party, but that would be nice. Of course, the Federal Reserve is a big villain, and people need to be made aware. So these are just sort of things to wave in front of them. And by the time I get to this, it's so meaningful because they don't understand stuff. I had a great idea for, like, we're talking solutions, would be like eGov, where it's like you take Waze and put that as government. So you see a problem, you put it down as a petition right away. People want to make it into a bill, they can do it right then. You don't have to wait to vote. You got to imagine the idea of a voting day comes from villages when you had to bring people from miles from other villages. Now it's completely electronic. They give poor people phones. There's no reason not to have every city have its own manageable set of pages where people could contribute, look up the laws, look up the contestants or whatever the hell they call these people, but I think we're still just sort of developing what to do with computers and to get our brains to catch up. And maybe war is just sort of an ancient behavior that we haven't outgrown. Jealousy is still a trip. Psychosis is still a trip. But really, we got close dealing with light to dealing with waves, energy. And like they used to knock on the table and say, it's not solid, it's just a bunch of particles. That's interesting stuff. The first thing I said to Mark Sargent, I hold true. I went up to him, I was all pissed like this, and I go, all right, so we don't live on a globe, but you haven't told me where we do live. And if you can't, and we can't because we're smart, this place isn't physical. We're not in a physical place. Everything's leaning there. It just opens up another shitty conversation and another whole set of stuff. And is that where I'm headed? I don't know. But it would be really easy to prove where we live if somebody took a small expedition of any kind. Go to Antarctica, go around both ways. If your boats meet, then there you go. So what expense to spend for what purpose? I think NASA is easy pickings, but so do they. They know they've already mostly disbanded. They farmed everything out. The original people are gone. You can sue them all you want. It's like it's done. Oh, great example. Around the corner. Oh, you got to come with me. On Laurel Canyon, up before Satakoy, is a place called Norton Sales, Inc. Look them up. They're a surplus shop that's been buying all the stuff from Rocketdyne and Boeing and all the old rocket parts that NASA says is gone. They've been surplusing for 45 years. I've been shopping at this place for 35 years. And they have stuff you and I could go see that are the Apollo control panels. When they say, oh, we don't have the technology, they've been scrapping it for years, because imagine when a project closes down, it basically goes up for auction. Like when you hear like Gemini, Apollo, Saturn V, each one of those projects, when they close down, they get rid of the desks, the chairs, the files, the springs, the pencils. The whole place empties out when the funding drops. And this has been the only guy bidding for years on that stuff. And he used to have 5 buildings. He's down to 1, and he's mostly doing it for props for TV now. But you and I could go buy stuff, rocket. Like, I know for a fact, like, this guy told me Elon Musk came in there and he bought like this valve that they were rebuilding and back engineering. And he showed me the valve, and I go, you're trying to tell me that the owner of that company knows what to shop for and he's coming here? He's like, yeah. And I go, that's bullshit. He goes, oh, he bought a bunch of stuff. I go, I bet he did. So it looks like they build rockets down there. I bet he did buy a bunch of stuff, because there's a lot of heavily welded pipes and manifolds and lines and hoses that you could make look like a rocket pretty quick.
Yeah, I'm on their site now. This is unbelievable.
So then he proves to me, and there's some video of me touring that too. Then he proves to me, he goes, you know who else comes here? And I go, who? And he goes, Buzz Aldrin. I don't know if you know, but Buzz Aldrin is known for having like $35 in change in his pocket on the moon, because he says he sold off a bunch of stuff that was supposedly in his pocket. So imagine him going there to pick up stuff to say, oh yeah, this is from NASA. So this guy trying to prove to me, the surplus guy, it's the son. He's lived there his whole life, right, in this business. He looked at me and he's like, I mean, like when they say it's not rocket science, this guy knows more about rockets than rocket people do. If you watch these SpaceX guys, they're clowns. They don't have, I mean, they're far from technical, you know? So it's interesting to hear this guy's been selling this stuff for a long time. And when I argued the point, he made one point to me. He goes, you see that rocket over there? They have one special rocket, and it's unused, but it's the lunar module, not the landing module, but the command module that circled the moon. And it was designed to be fired in space to come home. And it's the only rocket ever designed to be fired in space. Because in reality, rockets can't work in space. There's nothing to push on. They push on air. Once they get to space, they can't turn or anything. So back when, just before NASA developed, you have to remember, before 58, there was only the Air Force. And the Air Force found when they got up high enough, none of their controls worked, because the air wasn't there to support the wings and the flaps and all that. So there is no controlled rocket anything, and it's preposterous what they say. NASA is easy to pick on, but like I said, they're kind of gone. Elon Musk is pretty easy to pick on if you've ever watched that stuff with that fake car in space, or why would they even put a car in space? I mean, the nonsense of that is hysterical. But the one proof for me is that you'll never see Earth. Even though the moon is a perfect platform for a camera, you'll never see a round thing spinning out there and a moon. You'll never see home, ever. They don't show you home. It's just never. Something that should be really common. You know, they show stuff a jillion miles away, but for some reason they don't show us home. And that.
What about sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. What about the pictures taken from the moon of the Earth that show like the moon's, isn't there one? I thought I saw one that's like, it shows the curve of the moon, right? The curve of the moon, and then a distant Earth.
There's two problems. There's two problems. The initial image had a Photoshop artifact where it was pasted, although it could have just been brightened, you know, but there's definitely a Photoshop effect on that image. The other problem is remember that the Earth is 4 times the size of the moon. So for instance, if you want to measure what the moon looks like, it's basically a fist size at arm's distance. And that image of the Earth was exactly like that. But it should have been 4 times bigger. It should have been a giant Earth in the sky. But they wouldn't have thought of that. And here's one thing that you notice later too. In all the transcripts ever of the moon stuff, you never heard the guy go, hey, look at the Earth. Like, you never hear him go like, oh, there's Cleveland, dude. You know, there's your house. You know, because it's not in the script. It wasn't there. If you're in a building, it wasn't really there. But it damned if you wouldn't just mention it a few times, right? Wow, look at the earth again. You know, you just think the word "wow," look at the earth would have come up ever.
Have any flat? I've been dying to ask everybody this, and I still don't know the answer. Have any flat earthers ever changed their mind and decided, no, I couldn't prove this. I believe the Earth is round? Or
You can't prove it if nobody cares. And a lot of people have quit out of frustration, but the bulk of people have just gone back to their lives. It would be as if they'd seen an angel, and for a while they were telling everyone they had to believe in God, and then they just finally said, you know what, I just do what I do and set by example. So there's a lot of seasoned flat earthers that don't preach. As a matter of fact, it's a mark of a newbie. Really, you know, it's like a Bible thumper, you know, they're on a mission. So yeah, you'll see us
Right.
on a mission, but it's not on purpose. It's some sort of natural reaction. It's not like what we want. It hasn't worked well for us. It's not like profitable or anything.
to preach?
To be bitched at and to be alienated. Yeah, it's not that. It's not to be wrong. To go out and be wrong. You know, like
To be told you're wrong.
well, going back to the computer thing. If you're going to use the word computers and you're going to buy 700 of them for your corporation, you could never get an Apple because they were twice the money. So mathematically, in some cases, for some reasons, and in some servers, there was reason why you had to accept the other formats. You know, so what is, for me, it's about what is the truth format. If there is no news, where are we supposed to get what's real? You know, and do we have a responsibility to carry that? Are we just being you know, what kind of dumb martyrs are we is really the question here. You know, because going out in the streets is just going to get us in trouble. Exposing anything, trouble. I've disguised it so far with a lot of humor and laughter and laughing at them and going out and dancing and having music and having fun and showing that there's a real face, that we're putting a face on flat earth when we go in public. And that's been the most touching and important thing I could do, is not only do that, but then broadcast that out to the world and say, look, we're here, we're real, we're real. We're not being paid. We really, I hate to say the word believe, but we believe we should be here. We believe that you deserve the opportunity to choose from your choices. We're being kept from our choices. Going back to what Liz said, what are they keeping from us? They're keeping us from understanding what our choices are and what our options are in this world. You know, we could just say love and war. You know, of course there should be some balance between positive and negative. I don't like to put the face of God and the devil on it. You know, I'd like to think that everything's got balance, and everything I've been working towards through the science and experiments with flat earth has to do with love energy and the connection with positive, negative, the center of the yin and yang being love energy. And can people come together? And what does it take if two can? What does it take to make the community? And what does it take to work together? Especially now with like maglev trains or things that are understanding to invert, you know, to create balance and things that are quick enough to create balance. You know, so can we use an app to balance a government, for instance? Yeah. It's, you know, these phones are amazing. You know, what's next? You know, what's next is exciting. So I'd like to have hope, and I'd like to assume, surprisingly, I have a little bit of guilt for not taking action right now, but I just think the idiots need to expose themselves a little more and go out and get shot, the gun-toting guys, before there's really room for reason. It doesn't seem like there's room for reason yet, that we're still just ramping up the turmoil. And I definitely believe that this is about oil and the petrodollar, and that they're just going to shut the United States. You know, like like they did with Russia. There's no USSR because Moscow just didn't come in one day. And really, it's the only way you can excuse all of our debt, all of our mistakes, the fact that we say you can have guns, and then get rid of all the military bases. It's just say, oh yeah, U.S. it doesn't exist anymore. There's 50 other economies here, states. It's not a big deal for us. It wouldn't change your life, really, surprisingly. And then the people that want to go be polygamists could go to Utah like you're supposed to, and the gun guys can go to Texas, and the stoners in Oregon, and the gamblers in Nevada, and that's the way it's supposed to be, really. You know, that's the way it was supposed to be. You want to hear something funny in terms of times changing? Liz, you're from California. Sacramento is our capital, but nobody knows why. Nobody even has a visual image of the place, period. You know, not a building, not a tree, nothing, you know.
Never been there.
It turns out that prior to roads, it had a shitload of river delta, and you could take goods inland. And it was a just teeming freeway of goods up there in the Sacramento Delta, where you could bring crops to the ocean, you know, so you could bring everything to the ocean for real shipping. It was really interesting how meaningless that is today, and why it was such a big deal.
That explains why there was an economy there.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
they set up the capital.
So I was convinced at one time that the digital age would be the mark of my lifetime. That if it didn't get digitized, it won't exist. And this is amazing times digitally. But this bullshit, this worldwide bullshit, which shows obviously conspiratorial power. Liz, I believe that the UN is paid by NASA, that the $58 million a day goes $1 million a day to each country in the UN, 50 countries.
I believe it. What else are they? I mean, they don't do anything.
They're not doing anything. Yeah, exactly.
That's what I was going to ask is how is this the one thing the governments of the world can all agree on is keeping us in the dark about the shape of the earth?
Good point, right? How did that happen? So I'd love to get there. Like I said, Shelley's really well respected, mostly because she's attractive, but she's well spoken and has some credentials. And we need to produce people that aren't generally fully emotional and psychotic, because we're by normal standards, we're over emotional. What is your vested interest would have to be what somebody would say. I got lucky. Mark Sargent, I hassled about the coat. I said, dude, you should have us wear a coat, and if it works, we should adopt a logo and be feared, you know. And he made a clue, Flat Earth Clues 14 it's called the Coat of Credibility. And it talks about how people buy it up. They buy it up. Bill Nye, the science guy, he's, you know, and Neil deGrasse Tyson. These men are actors. These men are not scientific in any way. And we're finding that even the new generation of people whom we've interviewed, one of the guys, the big guy, Spiros Makalakis, he doesn't know jack shit. He's just well-spoken and attractive. If you see him in the interviews with us, he kept going, imagine. And it's like, dude, we're not imagining. We're really, you know, it's like they'll show us here's the great NASA quote: a teaspoon of a neutron star weighs 2.2 million something, you know, and you're going, a teaspoon of a neutron star weighs, you know, who the fuck are you talking to? And you ask them, and they go, how'd you determine that? And they go, well, you know, the light reflects this color, that means it's this gas. And it's like, so for instance, if I found a wine barrel out there, you could tell me what was in it? You know, it's like, if you see me standing and I weigh 160 pounds, what if I had 35 pounds of coins in my pocket? You can't tell what I weigh by how I look, but that's the kind of bullshit that they pull in astrophysics. And astrophysics is some great examples. Those people are guessing. I mean, they do not know what they're talking about. So it's a lot of fun to go against. It's a lot of fun to go against people on this. It's not fun to be outnumbered by idiots. And when I did Flat Earth Hollywood, I was out too late and got a lot of drunks. So they tend to try and overpower you, laugh and walk away. Like, dude, haven't you ever been on an airplane? You're an idiot. It's like, yes, you know, but ask them to produce a photograph of a curved Earth from an airplane, and there isn't any. You know, so it's fascinating what people believe. This is definitely about what people believe, and the exciting thing is the shit shows created help. Like the people at the Jubilee think they're laughing at us, but they're not. You know, last year we were on Newsweek, 8-page spread in the fall Popular Science. That was meaningful, and our own community didn't really embrace it very well.
You told me about that article and then another one that I.
Newsweek, I think
Newsweek, okay.
Probably May of last year. And I think we're on the, I don't know if we were on the cover, but I think we were. I'd have to look that up. I don't have a copy of that. So can we take responsibility for a truth movement? I doubt it. You know, I doubt we could take responsibility, but we should join it. We should really figure out where the Greenpeace and the tree huggers and where the people that care are. It does lead to politics, and I ran aground there and decided I'd do humor. I would get to more people through humor than politics. That I was inexperienced to battle that monster. And then I had Hollywood to cheat, right? I could totally cheat. The next thing you know, I had a worldwide audience. I walked in and I had people all over the world watching at night. You know, it was pretty fun. So,
well, I think if we do this show, I think you need to continue that, because I think it's a cool. I mean, it's just a cool thing to see you do.
I think the idea of flat earthers being recognized across the street is like, or even just, okay, who are those guys? Whether they're feared or respected, it's like in uniform. Any uniform is powerful, man. A uniform is powerful.
Yeah, it's
if
like
4 football players, you'd be pretty sure they were football players, you know. So
you guys should do biker vests.
Well, dude, don't. I get teased about that way too much. Way too much.
We could do this all day, and I don't know when. There's never a good time to cut off, but
All right, so Liz, in answer to your question, the NASA thing is huge. I think for us, we have to go back and focus on what's obvious, and a lot of that stuff, fakery there, is real obvious, and their current stuff is real obvious. And you have to ask, you know, who's voting for that? Who's supporting that? Why are we spending money on that when people are living under the freeways? You know, and where is it? Basically, I have a picture of the globe, you know, holding a sign saying, what the fuck? Who's in charge here? And you haven't heard the word United Nations since this started. And that manipulation of when we want the UN and don't is just more of this bullshit. You know, so it'd be really great if the Flat Earth movement was a truth movement and that we had key points, physical, geographical evidence of bullshit. So
it takes a leader.
I don't.
Or do you disagree?
Yeah, I do. It takes a curriculum. Yeah, totally. A curriculum. I think the universities have been bought up, and that their curriculums are garbage. So it takes a curriculum, kind of like homeschooling, took a whole new style of teaching. They teach what to think. They don't teach how to think.
I agree with that. Like the concept of critical thinking has gone out the window completely.
I will tell you now, my belief is very recent. That what I used to think was maybe Judgment Day wasn't that someone was watching overhead, but you had a conscious and a subconscious, and you asked yourself. And I'm fascinated right now by reincarnation, because a 3-year-old kid probably can't lie and make up stuff about another place. So if I wiped out the hard drive known as me when I died, and it went to that kid, he might know of what was on the drive. So now I see the soul as maybe a SIM card, and it gets pulled and uploaded, But since there's so much crap, bless you, at least you're not, it's not a dry cough. But if garbage in, garbage out, if we're getting crappy information back to a collective soul, it's coming back as crap. When it's not crap, glitches might be like deja vu and such, but some of the crap is Mandela effect. And there seems to be physical manifestations of shit that shouldn't be. So I think we're in a rendering. I think there is some computer digital related thing, just like there isn't a band on that CD, but when you play it, you hear it. So I think we're in a form of playback, whether we can adjust it or change it or pick the different disc. I think we're in a shared experience that gets rendered as we do. So believe it or not, you become part of our little shitty group just by being interested.
I love it.
Because it's a passion. It's a passion. It's not a blessing. It's anything that like that, you know?
Hey, so Dan, I think we'd love to move this forward with you in some capacity. So what we'll do after this, I'll send you a WeTransfer link because the file tends to be too big to email it. So I'll send you the WeTransfer link so you have this footage. And we'd love to put together like a really basic talent agreement with you to have you be part of this show, because I think it's amazing to talk to you. I think you have a really unique perspective. I think
just that I'm too honest, so you're going to have to really warn me what you don't want me to say, and then it'll be less fun.
I think we want to go for honesty, and one of the things that we've thought about, like this show, we're not passing judgment, we're not taking sides, we're presenting what's happening and letting an audience decide for themselves. So I think the more honest you can be, the better.
I think you're going to have to present the other side. I think we look silly on our own. I don't know.
The other side is part of it. It's absolutely part of it.
Yeah. And we have no problem haggling with those people.
Yeah. And again, like everyone's questioning the government. So for anyone, regardless of their belief, to sit there and go, hey, these people are crazy for questioning something that we've been just shoved, down our throats since the time we were kids. I think, it's an indictment of them.
Well, COVID helps because we can see now that we are collectively led, even if not misled. We're certainly led by something. I think it used to be kings, then kings, then countries, and now sort of corporations. Your allegiance is not going to be to a country. It's more to a corporation. So there's more like a corporate power now that's going to emerge as being the leaders of everything. Wild.
There are people too.
I'd love to be excited. And if there is a TV, we're not squished for existing, we find real value in that banter where we look like we're getting bashed, but we really feel that we've got a message out, because we don't get it out very much. And even if it's disjointed, it's a lot less about geography now and a lot more about truth. A lot less about geography.
Okay, awesome, Dan. All right, well, thank you so much for your time. We really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm available day and night, so let me know.
And in the next couple of weeks, let's maybe we should all take a little field trip.
Okay.
When you're back in town, go over.
Yeah, and you should go over to Norton Sales with me. It's I live like a stone's throw from it.
Okay, well, we're right in the area, so yeah, let's make it happen.
Yeah, let me know.
They must love you.
Oh, no, I don't go there. I go. I keep it special, actually, because I feel guilty. I'm not paying them because I have the most awesome set ever. I mean, ever. It's just amazing because it proves the lie right there. They say that they can't recover any of the technology, and they've been whoring it out via surplus for forever. As soon as they can, they dump it, because how else do you get new funding for new tooling and everything? Right. So when, back to your question again, why? It's because it's just a huge cash cow. Every program, every cancellation, then they can undershoot it knowing they can fix it later. Then it gets overrun because it started overrun. It's going to get canceled. Who cares? They got the next generation behind it. They don't give a shit. They're not even going to space. Have you ever watched one? They don't even go up. They don't even have the decency to go up. If you watched one. I don't know if you saw the one that was off the coast here 2 years ago, but it was amazing. It just was right there. You could
I did
watch
see
it.
that.
It looked
See that.
like it wasn't 100 miles away, right? It just looked like
That was wild.
it was very perspective-y and strange.
All right, Dan, thank you so much. We'll definitely email you with sort of our next steps, and let's be in touch.
You're going to definitely think about meeting in places with other flat earthers coming, because that shows all that warmth, and you'll get more personalities in. Otherwise, I think you're really going to be stuck looking for shit show personalities. But I think you can infuse people from both sides and guests and moderators and things, and keep it flexible if you speak of it in those terms of, you know, in this location, we'll bring this and that. And hopefully you don't have to fly anyone in, because we're stupid enough to fly ourselves in.
Sounds good, Dan. All right, take care. Have a good rest of the day. Thank you.
Thanks for your time, Dave. I appreciate it.
Bye.
Thanks, Dan. See ya.